The morning fog clung to the metal graveyard like a shroud, thick and gray and full of secrets. Jackson Reed pulled his collar higher against the chill as he navigated between the twisted remains of starships that had fallen from the sky decades ago. His boots crunched on broken glass and scattered debris, each step echoing in the eerie silence that always surrounded the wasteland. Most people avoided this place. They called it cursed, haunted, dangerous. The government had declared it a no-go zone after the last ship crashed here 15 years ago, warning of radiation and unstable alien technology. But Jackson wasn't most people. He was a salvager, and the wasteland was his livelihood. He'd been working alone for 3 years now, ever since his sister Mira had moved to the outer colonies. The solitude suited him. People were complicated, unpredictable, full of hidden agendas. Machines were honest, metal didn't lie, circuits didn't betray, and broken things could always be fixed if you knew how to listen to them. His scanner beeped softly as he approached the hull of a Centauri freighter. The readings showed promising energy signatures deep within the wreckage. Jackson smiled grimly. If he was lucky, he'd find enough salvageable tech to keep him fed for another month. The ship's interior was a maze of collapsed corridors and sparking wires. Jackson moved carefully, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. He'd learned to trust his instincts in places like this. The wasteland had a way of swallowing careless explorers whole. He was deep in the ship's belly when his scanner picked up something unexpected. Not the usual electromagnetic signature of abandoned technology, but something else, something organic, something alive. Jackson froze, his hand instinctively moving to the plasma cutter at his belt. The readings were faint but unmistakable. A heartbeat, breathing. But that was impossible. Nothing could survive in the wasteland for long, especially not inside a crashed ship. Following the signal, he made his way deeper into the wreckage. The corridor opened into what had once been the ship's medical bay. Equipment lay scattered across the floor, most of it beyond repair. But in the far corner, huddled behind an overturned medical pod, was a figure, a girl. She couldn't have been more than 20, with pale skin that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. Her hair was white as starlight, falling in waves around her shoulders. She wore the tattered remains of what looked like a ship's uniform, but it was unlike anything Jackson had ever seen. The fabric seemed to shift and shimmer, as if it were woven from liquid mercury. What struck him most were her eyes. They were the deep blue of Earth's oceans, but with flecks of silver that caught the light like scattered stars, and they were filled with a terror so profound it made his chest ache. "Hey," he said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you." The girl pressed herself further into the corner, and Jackson noticed the strange markings on her skin. They looked like intricate tattoos, but they pulsed with a faint bioluminescence. Lines of soft blue light traced patterns along her arms and disappeared beneath her clothing. "How long have you been here?" he asked, taking a careful step closer. She didn't answer, but her breathing quickened. Jackson could see she was injured. A dark stain spread across her left shoulder, and her movements were stiff with pain. "You're hurt," he observed. "Let me help you." At the word help, something changed in her expression. The fear was still there, but it was joined by something else. Hope, perhaps, or desperate need. "Please," she whispered, and her voice was like music, melodic and strange. "Don't let them find me." "Who's looking for you?" Jackson asked, but she just shook her head. "They think I'm dead," she said. "It's better that way." Jackson studied her face, searching for signs of deception, but all he saw was pain and exhaustion. Whatever she was running from, it had pushed her to the very edge of survival. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated for a long moment, as if the question itself was dangerous. "NYX, she finally said. "I'm Jackson." He crouched down, making himself less threatening. "Nix, I have a place not far from here. It's safe hidden. You can rest there. Get your strength back." "Why?" she asked, and the question caught him off guard. "Why what? Why would you help me? You don't know me. You don't know what I am." Jackson considered this. She was right. He didn't know her, and there was clearly something unusual about her. The markings on her skin, the way she seemed to glow in the darkness, the fabric of her clothes that moved like living metal, But he also saw something else. He saw someone who was lost, alone, and afraid. Someone who needed help. Because everyone deserves a chance, he said simply. For the first time, Nyx smiled. It was a small, fragile thing, but it transformed her entire face. You're not like the others. What others? The ones who hunt, the ones who take. Jackson felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. Who's hunting you, Nyx? But she was already struggling to her feet, wincing as the movement aggravated her injury. I'll come with you, she said, but we need to leave now. They'll have detected the ship's distress beacon by now. What distress beacon? Nyx touched one of the glowing markings on her arm, and suddenly the air around them hummed with energy. The broken equipment in the medical bay flickered to life for a moment before dying again. That beacon, she said quietly. Jackson's scanner erupted in a cacophony of alarms. Multiple contacts were approaching the wasteland, moving fast. Military-grade vehicles by the look of their signatures. We need to go, he said urgently, offering Nyx his arm for support. She leaned against him, and he was surprised by how warm she was. Her skin seemed to radiate heat, and the markings on her arms grew brighter at his touch. They made their way through the wreckage as quickly as Nyx's injuries would allow. Behind them, Jackson could hear the whine of approaching engines. Whoever was coming, they were in a hurry. His workshop was hidden in a natural cave formation about 2 miles from the crash site. It had taken him months to set it up properly, installing power cells and atmosphere processors, creating a comfortable living space carved from the rock itself. More importantly, it was shielded from most types of scanning equipment. By the time they reached the cave entrance, Nyx was breathing heavily and leaning more of her weight against him. The glow from her markings had dimmed, as if she was running out of energy. Almost there, Jackson murmured, guiding her through the hidden entrance. Inside, the workshop was warm and well-lit. Workbenches lined the walls, covered with half-finished projects and salvaged components. A comfortable living area occupied one corner, with a couch and a small kitchen unit. It wasn't much, but it was home. Nyx stopped just inside the entrance, her eyes wide as she took in the space. You live here. For the past 3 years, Jackson said, helping her to the couch. It's not much, but it's mine. She sank into the cushions. With a sigh of relief, it's beautiful, she said, and he could hear the wonder in her voice. So many things, so much life. Jackson looked around, trying to see his workshop through her eyes. To him, it was just a collection of broken machines and spare parts. But perhaps to someone who had been hiding in a crashed ship, it represented something else entirely. Let me look at that shoulder, he said, reaching for his medical kit. Nyx hesitated, then slowly pulled back the fabric of her shirt. The wound was unlike anything Jackson had ever seen. It looked like a burn, but the edges were perfectly geometric, as if she'd been shot with some kind of energy weapon. The strange part was that it seemed to be healing itself. As he watched, the damaged tissue slowly wear upon back together. That's impossible, he breathed. Nyx looked down at the wound, then back at him. I'm not like you, she said quietly. I'm not human. Jackson met her eyes, seeing the fear there. The fear of rejection, of being cast out once again. But all he felt was curiosity, and something else, something that made his heart beat faster. I don't care what you are, he said. You're safe here. And in that moment, as the first tears rolled down Nyx's cheeks, Jackson realized that his life of solitude was about to change forever. The first thing Nyx noticed when she woke was the silence, not the oppressive, dead silence of the wasteland, but something softer, the gentle hum of her recyclers, the distant whisper of wind through stone, the quiet sounds of someone moving carefully in another room. For the first time in months, she felt safe enough to truly rest. She was lying on Jackson's couch, covered with a thermal blanket that smelled faintly of machine oil and something else, something uniquely him. Her shoulder no longer throbbed with pain, and when she gently probed the wound, she found only smooth, unmarked skin. Her body's accelerated healing had worked its magic while she slept. You're awake, Jackson's voice came from across the room. She turned to see him standing at one of his workbenches, a steaming mug in his hands. How do you feel? Better, she said, sitting up slowly. Much better. Thank you. He approached cautiously, as if she might bolt at any sudden movement. I made coffee. It's not much, but it's warm. Nyx accepted the mug gratefully, wrapping her fingers around its warmth. The liquid was bitter and strong, unlike anything from her world, but it was perfect. She took a sip and sighed contentedly. You've been asleep for 18 hours, Jackson said, settling into a chair across from her. I was starting to worry. My people need more rest than yours when we're healing, she explained. Our bodies put everything into repair mode. Your people, he repeated carefully. You said you weren't human. Nyx studied his face, looking for signs of fear or disgust, but all she saw was curiosity and concern. This man who had rescued her from the wasteland, who had offered her sanctuary without question, deserved the truth. I'm Zerah, she said. My world was called Zephyria. It was beautiful. Was. The word hung in the air like a blade. Nyx set down her mug and looked at her hands. The bioluminescent markings on her skin had faded to barely visible lines, but they still traced their ancient patterns across her arms. Gone. She whispered. All of it. My family, my friends, my entire civilization. I'm the last. Jackson leaned forward. What happened? War, she said simply. Not with weapons or armies, but with something far more destructive. A plague that ate through our technology, turned our own machines against us. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late. She closed her eyes, remembering the great crystalline cities of Zephyria, where her people had lived in harmony with their biotechnological gardens. The singing towers that channeled the planet's energy through living circuits. The meditation pools where the elders communed with the planetary consciousness. All of it reduced to ash and silence. I was on a research vessel when it happened, she continued. We were studying dimensional rifts in the outer system. When we returned, she shook her head. There was nothing left, nothing but dead worlds and empty space. I'm sorry, Jackson said quietly, and she could hear the genuine sympathy in his voice. The others wanted to search for survivors, to try to rebuild. But I knew the truth. The plague hadn't been natural. It had been sent by someone who wanted us gone. And they were still out there, watching, waiting to finish what they'd started. So you ran. I fled, she corrected, like a coward. While my crewmates died trying to save a dead world. I stole a life pod and jumped through the nearest dimensional rift. I've been running ever since. Jackson was quiet for a long moment. How long? 3 years, maybe 4. Time moves differently between dimensions. You've been alone for years? The compassion in his voice nearly broke her. She had grown used to solitude, to the constant fear and endless hiding. But sitting here in his warm, cluttered workshop, she realized how much she had missed simple human connection. Yes, she said. Until now. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. An understanding, perhaps. 2 lost souls who had found each other in the darkness. You're not alone anymore, Jackson said. Over the following days, they fell into an easy routine. Jackson would work on his salvage projects while Nyx explored the workshop, fascinated by the ingenious ways he had adapted alien technology for human use. She began to help, her innate understanding of biotechnology proving invaluable in repairing the more exotic pieces of equipment. How do you know how to do that? Jackson asked one afternoon, watching her coax a Centauri data core back to life with nothing but her touch. On my world, we didn't separate technology from biology, she explained. Everything was alive, connected. I can feel the patterns, the way energy wants to flow, to demonstrate. She placed her hand on a broken quantum processor that had been frustrating Jackson for weeks. The markings on her skin began to glow softly, and the device hummed to life. Incredible, he breathed, moving closer to watch. It's like you're speaking to it. In a way, I am. She looked up at him, surprised by how close he was standing. All things have a kind of consciousness, a desire to fulfill their purpose. I just help them remember what that is. And what's my purpose? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The question caught her off guard. She looked into his eyes, kind, intelligent, filled with a loneliness that mirrored her own and felt something shift inside her chest. I don't know, she said honestly. But I think maybe we're meant to find out together." That evening, Jackson received a transmission from his sister Mira. The holographic image flickered to life above his communication console, showing a woman with his same dark hair and gentle eyes. "Jax, it's been weeks since your last message." The recording said, "I'm starting to worry. The Colonial Authority says there's been increased military activity in your sector. Please tell me you're not doing anything dangerous." Nix watched from the shadows as Jackson activated the return channel. "Hey, Mira. Sorry for the silence. I've been busy." "Busy how?" "You live in a cave, Jax. How busy can you be?" He glanced toward where Nix was standing, and she saw the conflict in his expression. He wanted to tell his sister about her, she realized, but he was protecting her secret, just work. He said, "I found some interesting salvage, nothing to worry about." Mira's image leaned forward. "You look different, happier, maybe. Are you sure you're okay?" "I'm fine," Jackson said, but his smile was genuine. "Better than fine, actually. I'll explain everything soon. I promise," after the transmission ended. Nix emerged from the shadows. "Your sister loves you very much. She worries too much," Jackson said, but his tone was fond. "She thinks I'm wasting my life out here, are you?" He considered this. "I used to think I was just surviving. Now I think I was waiting." "For what?" "For you." The words hung between them like a bridge, waiting to be crossed. Nix felt her heart racing, the bioluminescent patterns on her skin beginning to pulse with a rhythm that matched her pulse. "Jackson," she said carefully, "I need you to understand something. My people, we don't love the way humans do when we bond. With someone, it's forever, complete. There's no going back. And if I said I wanted that," he asked, stepping closer, "if I said I've been alone my whole life, and for the first time, I don't want to be, then I would say you should be very sure," she whispered. "Because once I give you my heart, it's yours until the stars go dark." He reached out and touched her face gently. "I've never been more sure of anything." When he kissed her, her markings blazed with brilliant light, filling the workshop with a warm, golden glow, and for the first time since her world had died, Nix felt truly alive. Outside, in the wasteland, scanners registered the energy pulse, and in a distant command center, someone smiled coldly and updated their coordinates. The hunt was about to begin. 3 weeks had passed since that first kiss, and Jackson's world had transformed in ways he never thought possible. The workshop that had once been his solitary refuge now felt alive with Nix's presence. She moved through the space like flowing water, touching his machines with reverent hands, bringing broken things back to life with nothing more than her will and understanding. But it wasn't just the technology she had changed, it was him. "Tell me about the sky on your world," Jackson said one evening as they sat together on the workshop's small observation deck. He had carved into the cave wall, through the transparent aluminum window. Earth's pale moon hung in the star-scattered darkness. Nix leaned against his shoulder, her warmth seeping through his shirt. "We had 3 suns," she said softly. "Zerah orbited them in a figure-8 pattern, so our days were never quite the same length. The sky would shift from gold to crimson, to deep violet as we moved between them." Her markings pulsed gently as she spoke, painting her memories in light. Jackson had learned to read those patterns like a book. The slow, steady pulse meant contentment. The rapid flicker indicated excitement or fear. Right now, they glowed with the soft rhythm of nostalgia and loss. "The most beautiful time was during the triple eclipse," she continued. "Once every 7 of your years, all 3 suns would align behind our largest moon. The sky would turn silver, and the crystalline cities would sing in harmony with the orbital resonance. Sing. Everything on Zerah was alive, connected to the planetary consciousness. During the eclipse, you could hear it, the voice of the world itself, welcoming the darkness and celebrating the light's return." Jackson pulled her closer. "I wish I could have seen it." "Maybe you can," she said, turning to look at him. "I've been thinking about something." Before he could ask what she meant, an alarm chimed from his communication console. Jackson frowned and moved to check it. The scanner showed an approaching vehicle, a modified ground transport with illegal signal dampeners. "We have a visitor," he said, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. Nyx was beside him instantly, her markings shifting to the rapid red pulse of danger. Who? I'm not sure, but they're trying to stay hidden. He studied the readings. Only one person coming alone. That's either very brave or very stupid. The transport stopped at the cave entrance, and Jackson's external cameras picked up a figure climbing out. The man was tall and lean, wearing a patched leather coat that had seen better decades. Scraggly gray hair hung around a weathered face, marked by too many years in hard places. Cade, Jackson muttered. What the hell is he doing here? You know him, he's a traitor. Black market mostly. Deals in things the government doesn't want people to have. Jackson moved toward the entrance. Stay back. Let me handle this. But Nyx caught his arm. He's not alone, she said, her voice tight with tension. The scanner only shows, not physically. But he carries something with him. Something that watches. Jackson paused, trusting her enhanced senses. How do you want to play this? Together, she said firmly. No more hiding. Cade knocked on the outer door with the casual confidence of someone who knew he was expected. Jackson activated the intercom. Cade, this is a surprise. Open up, read. We need to talk. About what? About the very expensive piece of alien tech you've got hidden in there. Jackson felt his blood turn to ice. Beside him, Nyx's markings flared bright red. I don't know what you're talking about, Jackson said. Cade's laugh was harsh and knowing. Come on, boy, you think word doesn't travel? Energy signatures like the one you've been putting out don't stay secret long, especially not when certain parties are offering very generous bounties. For information. What kind of bounties? The kind that could set a man up for life. The kind that make old traitors forget about things like friendship and loyalty. Jackson looked at Nyx. Her face had gone pale, but her jaw was set with determination. Let him in, she said quietly. NYX, he's right, we can't hide forever, and I'm tired of running against his better judgment. Jackson opened the door. Cade stepped inside, his small, sharp eyes immediately scanning the workshop until they found Nyx. His expression shifted from greedy interest to something closer to awe. Well, I'll be damned. He breathed. You're really one of them, aren't you? A Zorati. You know my people? Nyx asked, surprise replacing some of the tension in her voice. Know of them. My grandfather used to tell stories about the Singer Wars. Before the plague took your worlds, said the Zorati were the most beautiful and most dangerous beings in the galaxy. His eyes fixed on her glowing markings. Guess the old bastard wasn't lying. What do you want, Cade? Jackson demanded. Same thing everyone wants these days, to survive. Cade moved deeper into the workshop, his practiced eye cataloging every piece of equipment. There are people looking for her, read. Serious people with serious resources, the kind who don't take no for an answer. What people? Corporate types. Scientists. They're calling it xenobiological research, but we both know what that really means. He looked at Nyx with something that might have been sympathy. They want to study you, girl. Take you apart to see how you work. Nyx's markings pulsed faster. How long do we have? That depends. Word is they've got a tracker who can follow. Bioenergy signatures. He's good, but he's slow, methodical. I'd say maybe a week before he narrows down your location. And you came here to warn us out of the goodness of your heart? Jackson asked skeptically. Cade grinned, showing teeth stained. By years of synthetic stimulants. Hell no, I came here to make a deal. What kind of deal? Simple. I help you disappear, really disappear, not just hide in a cave, and in return, she helps me with a little problem I've been having. What problem? Nyx asked. Cade reached into his coat and pulled out a small device that looked like a crystalline flower made of metal and light. The moment Nyx saw it, she gasped. That's a Zorati memory core, she said. Where did you get it? Salvaged it from a wreck in the Vega system. Been trying to crack it for 3 years. My tech guys say it's impossible. The encryption is biological, tied to Zorati DNA, because it was never meant to be opened by outsiders, Nyx said. Moving closer to examine the device, these cores contain the memories and consciousness of my people. They're sacred and valuable, Cade corrected. The information in there could be worth millions to the right buyers. Cultural data. technological specifications, maybe even star charts to hidden Zorati colonies. Nyx's markings flared with anger. You want to sell the memories of my people? I want to retire to a nice planet somewhere and never have to deal with corporate hunters again. Cade said bluntly, but I can't do that if I can't crack the core. And you can't stay hidden forever with a tracker on your trail. There's another option. A new voice said from the doorway. They all spun around to see a figure in the entrance stall. Elegant, wearing robes that seemed to shimmer between dimensions. The newcomer's face was hidden behind a mask of polished silver. But something about their presence made the air itself seem to vibrate with power. Who the hell are you? Cade demanded, his hand moving to his weapon. The figure ignored him, focusing instead on Nyx. When they spoke, their voice carried harmonics that made Jackson's bones ache. Hello, little sister, they said. I've been looking for you for a very long time. Nyx's markings blazed so bright they filled the workshop with blinding light. Zerah, she whispered, but that's impossible. You're dead. You all died with Zephyria. The masked figure reached up and removed their mask, revealing a face that was almost identical to Nyx's, but older, marked with intricate scarification that pulsed with the same bioluminescence. Death is not always permanent for our kind, Zerah said, and some of us have learned to exist in the spaces between worlds. She turned to Jackson, and he felt the weight of ancient wisdom in her gaze. You love her, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes, he said without hesitation. Good. She will need that love for what comes next. Zerah looked back at Nyx. The choice I offer is this: come with me to the Shadow Realm where our people's consciousness still lives, or stay here and fight for a love that may cost you everything. Nyx looked between Zerah and Jackson, her heart breaking. I can't choose between my people and my heart. Then don't, Jackson said, stepping forward. Find a third option. You're brilliant, Nyx. You've survived when your entire species died. You can find a way to have both. Zerah smiled, and for the first time, she looked truly alive. He speaks wisdom, little sister. Perhaps there is hope yet for the song of Zephyria. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, but it wasn't a storm. Approaching it was the sound of ships entering atmosphere. The hunters had found them. Decide quickly, Cade said, checking his scanner, because we're about to have company.